This one has been a long time coming. We welcome Dr. Beth Deuermeyer and Jennifer Briggs to the show. How are you two?
Great.
Good. Really
Fabulous.
good. Happy to be here.
Great. We're happy to have you here. How was your weekend? A loaded question.
Too short. Yes.
How much time do we have?
As long as you want. Go for it.
We'll get really into it. We had the first ever School of Innovation Aggie Forum, sponsored by the A&M Foundation. It was a 2-day event. We'll get into it. It was great.
It was great. And it turned out really, really well. So we're really happy with the way that it came out. But it was a lot of work. It was well worth it. But it was a lot of time and effort and a true team effort that really came together. And it was really good. So
that was Friday and Saturday. So we really didn't have a weekend. So Jennifer and I tried to squeeze in all of our weekend activities into
on a Sunday.
Well done.
Yeah.
What did those weekend activities involve?
Church.
Yeah.
And then we met
Girls brunch. Get together with a girls group that we have and just talk and hang out. And I had some time to catch up with my dog. Was not happy with the hours I've been keeping lately. And so spent a lot of time with him throwing the ball and giving him love and attention, which was still not enough for him. So he's ready for more mommy time, but he won't get it till next weekend.
These things do happen.
I had Bible study in the afternoon and then I had a date.
Yes.
So we had burgers
you had a lot to accomplish on Sunday.
I did. Accomplished a lot.
Sounds like a good weekend. Tell us briefly, I'll direct this one to you, Dr. Beth. Tell us briefly what Aggie Forum is and how it was inspired.
Aggie Forum is a co-creation event. So it's a time when people bring projects, problems, and they're seeking answers. And maybe they've come to a standstill and they've hit a plateau and they're having trouble moving forward. So it's a way to get different perspectives on a problem that you've been having. And so it was inspired by the work from one of our former students who became the president of a university down in Guatemala City. So.
Giancarlo, who was class of 85, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. But he was a former student here, engineering major, was born in Guatemala, came here for his undergrad in engineering, and then went back to Guatemala and eventually became the president of Universidad Francisco Marroquin in Guatemala City. And I'm not sure exactly how the methodology developed, but he just recognized that most conferences, you accomplish the most during the coffee break. And so he wanted to make kind of like a really long coffee break where people can just talk and connect and network and like collaborate. So I think the most simple way to kind of explain the Aggie Forum is it's almost like crowdsourcing in a very condensed, short, live, face-to-face setting. And it goes through several different phases. Your project kind of twists and turns, and you might not even end up where you thought you were going to be initially.
A lot of pivoting.
Okay.
But that's kind of how it is. We can get into the details later, but it's a really unique opportunity for people to be able to come together and just collaborate from all different types of perspectives.
Great. Let's hit our icebreaker question before we jump into your backstories, and I'll direct this one to you first, Jen. What is your favorite superpower?
It might be a little bit simple and boring, but I really love to travel. I really, really enjoy that, and just sort of seeing the world in all kinds of different cultures and seeing things again from different people's perspectives and kind of getting outside of my own comfort zone. And so I think if I had the ability to fly, just sort of like pack up a backpack, throw a Nui in the backpack, and then just take off somewhere and just be able to like instantly experiencing these great places that you kind of see in documentaries and all kinds of Instagram and all these great visuals, like to actually be there in person would be really cool.
What's your favorite place you've traveled to?
Oh gosh. Favorite place I've traveled to so far would either be probably Greece or Turkey, actually. Okay. I really enjoyed those a lot.
And if you could fly, you could get from Greece to Turkey pretty quickly.
I mean, really easily. Yeah. Just explore the whole region. Just knock it out in a weekend even, maybe.
Very nice. Very nice. Beth, what about you?
So I have two answers. One is one of my passions is caring for people. And if I could just know at the very moment what somebody actually needs.
Oh.
So almost like a reading of the mind, but I only want to know what they need to make them feel better. So I could just make people feel better. But if I'm being selfish, it's just to be really strong, like abnormally strong. I think because I've never, I CrossFit and I've never been able to really do RX to do the weight that's prescribed. So if I could just do that on a regular basis and maybe go
just knock it out,
go
beast
beyond.
mode.
Yeah. So I would love to be, and I think I could actually help people as well. I could, lift your car up,
Yeah.
carry things around.
Nice.
So that was probably the question. I think I saw your list and I listened to the podcast, and this was the question I was most terrified about.
I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, because it is a hard one to answer. So I've been thinking about
you
this.
gave a great answer. I
It's
hope
because I've been thinking about it for a month and a half.
Well, you did well.
Thank you.
Did well.
Thank you.
60 seconds on your road to the iSchool. I'll start with you again, Jen.
Oh, okay, sure. So for me, the road to the iSchool started at Texas A&M School of Law, actually, in Fort Worth. And so I was working in the development office there, and Andy, our dean of the School of Innovation, Andrew Morris, was the dean of the School of Law. We started about the same time.
Oh.
And so I was the development assistant for our development director there, and worked a lot with Andy, worked really closely with him. And we were there together for about 3 years. And Andy was kind of coming to the end of his career there and kind of figuring out what he wants to do next. And he was approached by President Young to consider this opportunity of starting a new school of innovation. And so he thought about it, and he said, if I do this, I really want to be able to take a team with me and bring some of the people here from the law school down and to be able to start this. And I was one of those people. And so he selected a handful of us from the law school to come on down and come to College Station and start the School of Innovation. So that's how I got here. Andrew Morris is the answer to that question. Simple answer.
And mine kind of started with Andrew and with Jack Manhire. We were at a workshop in DC with, I was doing a postdoc in the College of Architecture with Francis Queck. And I had finished my PhD here at A&M in 2016, took a postdoc to get more research grant experience. And I met Jack at a workshop we were putting on, and we started talking about education and some of my opinions and on what I thought was working well at A&M or at school in general. And Jack kind of said, hey, you've got some good ideas. Why don't you come see me when we get back to College Station? And a month later, I was working part-time for the iSchool, and I worked for them part-time while also still doing my postdoc for about a year. And then I started with them full-time back in August.
Beautiful. We'll talk about our team building questions very quickly. I know some of these answers for you already, Beth, but let's get the answers out into the world for the audience. Where did you grow up?
I grew up here in College Station.
Yes.
My dad was a professor at Texas A&M. He was in industrial engineering for about 28 years before he retired. And so they're from Minnesota. So I'm a first generation Aggie. So I grew up here just being surrounded by the A&M family. I have a twin sister. That is my only sibling. So we're a very small family. There are just 4 of us growing up. So they're very inspirational to me. Of course, they instilled education is key. So went to school here at A&M. My first job I had out of school was teaching in Killeen, Texas, over at Fort Hood. I was there for teaching for 3 years, and then I worked on a master's degree while I was there in school counseling. And moved to a counseling role, did that for a few more years in Killeen, ended up being there for about 5 years, and then moved to Houston. And then somehow got convinced when I finished my master's, I said I would never do a PhD. I said that wasn't for me. But
here we are. So
did
you hear yourself say Minnesota?
Did I? Dang it.
You did.
Yeah.
I love it.
My mother would be proud.
I'm sure. What was your greatest challenge as a child?
Definitely the comparison game. So having a twin sister who from the very beginning, we were very competitive with each other, and people probably didn't notice it, but internally we were always comparing ourselves to each other. And I don't think even her and I even knew that we were comparing ourselves. But I very much was. And, I always, we were always trying to one up each other. And she had the smarts and the music talent. She was in orchestra and did very well in that. And I always played sports, and my talent was having too many friends and not studying. But I really didn't, I didn't really have to study to do well, not to brag. So yeah, and so that was a challenge, and that's the challenge that I'm still working with today. I mean, it's hard not to compare yourself to people. I feel like in academia, that's a lot of what we're doing constantly is comparing ourselves to each other, and
you're not wrong.
It creates a lot of an imposter syndrome, so you never kind of feel like you're quite good enough. So, but it's funny. The other day, I was talking to my mom. Hi, Sally. Good. She's probably going to listen to this.
I hope so.
I said, I can't, I don't ever talk to Anne. She's always so busy when I call her. She's got the kids and, she's working again and she's just so busy. And my mom was like, that's ridiculous because your sister said the exact same thing about you. She said, you're always too busy. She feels like she's bothering you. You've got so many obligations. And so it's kind of like a reality check. We're both kind of on the same level. Just because she has certain things she's accomplished doesn't mean that I'm lacking, and vice versa.
Jen, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Arlington, Texas, so the DFW area. Yeah. I grew up there most of my life. And then for my last 2 years of high school, I went to a college preparatory school in Virginia. Yeah. And then I went to school on the East Coast. I went to Elon University in North Carolina, and then bounced around a little bit, came back to Texas for a little bit, trying to figure out what I want to do. Do I want to get my master's? And life inevitably got in the way, and that never happened. But moved back to North Carolina for a while, back to Texas. So I've kind of been a little bit all over, but kind of Arlington, DFW area is where I grew up and is my home. And then, just started working in development. That's kind of really, I have a degree in marketing, and I did actually do some marketing work on the East Coast before I moved back to Texas. And then I got into development and kind of been in higher education ever since. And so
you're missing the best part about
the best part
family.
About my family. Yes. So my mom was born and raised in Hawaii. And so my family lives in Hawaii. And so for a couple of those years, I was actually living in Hawaii, and I go back at least once a year ever since I was born. So I've probably been over to Hawaii over 60 times in my life. So yeah, so that's a little fun fact. Going home to see family is not bad.
Sounds great. How many in your family?
So it's just me and my older sister. She's 2 years older than me, and so we had kind of a rocky relationship. I think the sisterhood relationship is really hard, and I think we had some of the similar issues that you and your sister had, Beth, and just kind of growing up together. And I wouldn't say I necessarily compared myself to her, but I think that she would say that, she would try to, compare herself to me sometimes.
Who's older?
My sister is older 2 years.
Okay, that's right. You said
older than me. And it's funny because it's similar. I played a musical instrument, and I didn't really have to study all that hard, for grades. And my sister was more the athletic one. And so it's kind of similar story to Beth's, but we're super close now, and I'm so grateful for her, and our relationship is really great. And she's, her and my mom are one of the two hands down strongest women I've ever known in my life, and huge role models for me, and people that I kind of look up to and try to, get guidance and advice from them. And but it wasn't easy getting to that place, but I'm so happy for it now. So thankful.
What was your greatest challenge as a child? Was it the comparison game, or was it something else?
No, I don't feel like that was really a challenge. I just looked at that as like just sibling kind of stuff. But I think for me, my sister and I both would be our parents' divorce. So my parents got divorced when I was really young. I don't ever really remember them together, actually. And it was a very, very tough, difficult divorce that lasted years. Oh. And it wasn't easy. And I think getting through that, and then, afterwards, the every other weekend and the sharing custody, and, the using your children as pawns, and which never really happened from my mother's side. My mom's side was always like a safe haven, a safe house at her house. But, my dad's environment really wasn't the same. And it was really difficult for us. And I think that that's something that I know I, for sure, am still struggling with today, and something that I continue to work on, like what is happened in your past or in your childhood, and how does that affect you today, and really taking a look at that and seeing how that's working in your life. I think it's really interesting. It's really been helping me grow and learn a lot about myself as well.
The fallout from my parents' divorce was a long-lasting obstacle for me into adulthood as well. So I don't claim to know what you went through, but I've dealt with some of that myself.
Yeah.
Let's move to the present day. School of Innovation. That is a super sexy title, but some people who are not me might say it's a little vague. Innovation, Webster's defines innovation as the action or process of making changes in something established, especially by introducing new methods, ideas, or products. Why a School of Innovation? What is it that the School of Innovation actually does?
So we like, or at least I like, that innovation is a little vague.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because I think it's a nice reminder. I don't like it that I like that it's not specific, because innovation happens everywhere, and innovation can occur in all different settings. So in the smallest places to the biggest places. And it's also, it's not defined by a type of person or a location or a setting, whatever. It's just, it happen anywhere.
Right.
I'm going to yes and. We're going to be doing a lot of yes and after the forum.
Which is good.
Yeah, that's one of our rules for the Aggie Forum is yes and always.
I think that's a rule for our office
just for our office in general. I think it's
yes for our listeners. Yes and, as opposed to
yes but, which
or
tends
just
to
no.
or no, which just tends to shut down the conversation. And it's really about building on what somebody else said. And to add to what Beth was saying, I think not that it was done maybe intentionally or strategically, but I think that it is good. I think it's a positive thing that innovation is vague. And I think for the first year that the School of Innovation was here on campus was really kind of like a research year. We were really diving in and figuring out what is the School of Innovation going to be, and like what can we do, what kind of value can we add here. And we started asking people the very simple question, what does innovation mean to you? And what we discovered, rightfully so, was that it means something different to everybody, depending on your major, your background. What are you working on? I mean, it really came back as a question that had a lot of different answers. And I think that that's a really good thing, because I think that leaves room for the freedom to really open up and break down the walls and try new things, and not be kind of stuck or pigeonholed into, well, innovation really means this. And I think a lot of people do associate innovation with change. And I see in the definition, it actually has change in there. For me, and I think for the School of Innovation, it's not necessarily about change. We're not here to change anything. Change can happen. It can be part of the process, but I don't think that innovation and change should be synonymous. I think for us, it was really more about how can we add value? How can we take what you're already doing and support you? How can we connect you with resources, or, what is it that you're lacking? Or can we just be a space where we come and talk about ideas? It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to change anything. It could be improving upon something. It could be starting from scratch. It could be any number of things. And that's why I think being vague or, really having a lot of room for interpretation is a really good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about creating impact. So I think President Young recognized that, of course, there was a lot of really good things going on here at A&M. We're an R1 school. We have so much research that's being done here that is being impactful on our world, but it could be even more so. And so I think one of our charges was to create a bigger impact with the things that are already being done here. We have the smartest not just a group of faculty in this nation, but students as well. We have students here who have brilliant ideas.
Yes.
Small ideas, big ideas, and everything in between.
Yes.
And I think President Young, he wanted to make the world know about that.
Absolutely. I think that the answer to the question, why a school of innovation, is that President Young did realize that that A&M has all these great minds here, and they're doing these great things, but how do we take it a step further? How do we follow through? How do we get it out into the world? And how do we get students involved? How can we get them more involved in the commercialization and IP process? How can we tap into the passions that they're doing and add value and without adding to their course load? And he thought that was a really interesting thing to take a look at. And so, quite simply said, it's really to unleash the creativity and the talent and the ideas and the powerful minds that we have here on A&M campus, and unleash that into the world. I think the overall goal would be, and it's going to take a while to get there, but if A&M, the School of Innovation at A&M could be a place where the world brings its problems or its challenges and says, put some students on this. Put some of your faculty and your students on this, and let's see what happens. That I think would be the ultimate overall goal.
Yeah, and I think another part of what we've kind of developed into, so now the School of Innovation has the Texas A&M Innovation Partners, which is our commercialization side. So we've been working for a couple of years now, and it's finally been approved to work with Health Science Center, some of the other colleges on campus to help get their ideas to market. And one thing we really want to do is to get students involved in that process. So one thing I will be focusing on as a staff member in that office is getting students into the process, looking at some of our cases that are in our portfolio, letting them loose on some of the challenges our startups are having, and giving them a chance to get some real world experience while they're still here at Texas A&M.
Absolutely.
Perfect. In Good to Great, Jim Collins talks about the need for a stop doing list, or essentially a list of things that should not be priority. Jen, you alluded to the fact that it doesn't have to be about change earlier. Are there any other aspects of the concept of innovation that the school is not necessarily concerning itself with?
I would say we're much more about inclusivity and being diverse, and let's blow the doors off and just let's talk about it. Let's just see. So I wouldn't say that there's a list of things that we shy away from, or we definitely don't do that.
Right.
I think we're willing to entertain kind of any idea or a conversation at least, and see if it'll be a good fit for us. And by good fit, it could be anything. Do we have the bandwidth for that right now? We are a very small staff, or does it kind of align with our mission and vision, or is there already something similar like this going on campus? Maybe we can just connect you with somebody else, and that's maybe a better partnership, instead of working with us. So I would say there's really not anything that we shy away from, other than I think for us, it's really more about the people and their mindset. Honestly, we're looking for people that are wanting to be collaborative and creative, and that are willing to take something. Oftentimes it's very personal to them that they've been working on. Let's say it's a project or a grant or something that they're really passionate about. People that come to the School of Innovation, it's passion projects. They're doing it outside of the classroom. Why? Because they're passionate about it. It doesn't count for class credit. They're not getting it on their 10-year review probably, so it's something that they're just passionate about. So they're connected to it. But we need people that are willing to come to us and trust us enough to say, okay, well, let's just dive in, and, let's not pick it apart necessarily, but let's look at it at all angles. Have you ever considered it from this perspective? Or, and some of that can be some feedback that maybe people aren't ready to hear or accept, or it can be hard. But it's all coming from a really good place of we just want to see if there's any ways that we can add value or take it in a different direction. And so I think we're just looking for open-minded people that are really excited about the possibility of, oh my gosh, I could tear this whole thing apart and go in a completely different direction. And that's exciting. That's really exciting. And I'm an engineer, but I'm going to be talking to somebody in history that's going to give me a perspective that I never would have had if I hadn't come here.
Right. You mentioned passion projects a couple of times. What has been for you the best moment? We're here. The moment that you felt you felt like this is really what we're about? Like, this is the emotional core of what we're doing. Like, this is the meaning underneath it all.
So I think this weekend at the Aggie Forum had a really good examples of some of these aha moments that give you that tingly feeling of this is why we're here. So I think the group that I was working with is a group out of mechanical engineering, and they have this device, and they've kind of been using the term autonomous vehicle to describe kind of what part of. I don't want to go into too much about what the technology is. But they were set on using that term because it is a buzz term. It's like everyone wants to talk about autonomous vehicles, but there is this feeling of fear and people being afraid of that technology because it's not really seen as being extremely safe right now. And so we kind of had a couple moments where, we had the two engineering grad students who were on the project. And they're so focused on the engineering side and the science side. Somebody who was not connected to engineering at all came and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about just not using that terminology?" And so they came in, and it was like, at least for me, and I think for them, this kind of light went off in their eyes of like, "Oh,
yeah, like we didn't know that we couldn't use that term, or that was an option, or
and then so by the end of the forum, we had completely changed the name of the device that they were going to be using to sell it, to market it, to something that, one, it no longer used that kind of frightful term, but it was a term that was now directed at the people they were going to be selling it to. And it was a term that these people were like, yes, we would want that because that's what we do. And so it was a situation where they had never asked anyone outside of their field to even think about what they were doing, and bringing in different perspectives just had this light bulb go off. And it was just this amazing moment for me, and I think for them. And there were several other projects that kind of, it was great because they realized at the beginning, they weren't going to get the answer they wanted, and they were upset about that. But by the end of it, they were totally okay with, this is growing me, even though I'm not hearing what I thought I wanted to hear.
Right?
We're growing.
Say that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Getting through to those kinds of truths is always, I feel like that's kind of why we're here.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, it can be hard. Like, it's not easy. I'm sure there might have been some people who walked away thinking, I got nothing out of this. And that's okay. It's not like we don't want to work with those people, but we want people to have those aha moments.
Absolutely. And if they walk away from it that they didn't feel like they got anything, or maybe they weren't getting the answers that they went into it, I do think that they came out with some sort of a value. So we also talk about failing, and I just don't like that word. I wish I could think of another word for that, because I think failing or failure has like a negative connotation, and I think it's great. Like, there's so much value in failure. You learn so much, and so with the Aggie Forum, and I think every project pivoted at some point. Like, there were twists and turns all over the place, and it was beautiful to watch because you think you're going into it, and I'm going to get these are my questions, and these are the answers that I'm going to get. I don't even think my station answered any of our questions, which was fine, because what she walked away with was just knowing that, okay, I need more research. Like, I know I want to do this. So that was confirmed. So validation for her was great. That was important. Yeah. But now I need to go back and really think about hitting this demographic and getting more research, and what are the type of questions that I want to ask them. And so even walking away with just that simple thing, and she also got a couple of ideas that she never would have had if she hadn't, had been in front of this group. But there is always something that you walk away with, and so seeing those moments and those light bulb moments and those aha moments, and, just the freedom to be like, well, I didn't know I could do that. Oh, okay. So
can you say pivot one more time?
Pivot.
We all weekend, we said pivot quite a few times, and every time I saw Ross
with the couch in the back stairwell at Friends.
You know what we're talking about?
Probably a copyright.
I know who Ross is from Friends.
Yeah. Pivot.
You saw it in your head?
Yeah, because there's this famous scene where they're trying to get a couch up a staircase.
Up a stairwell.
And he keeps yelling, pivot.
So, sorry.
Nice.
We're quirky.
Daniel Pink, in his 2005 book, A Whole New Mind, talks about 6 abilities, and they're really kind of frameworks as well that he believes will be strongly emphasized in 21st century business and careers in general. Those are design, story, symphony, empathy, play, and meaning. Is there a set of abilities or frameworks that the School of Innovation particularly prizes? Is there a framework that you feel like you build a lot of different things around? Is there something that you keep coming back to in your work at the school?
I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a framework that we keep coming back to, other than this sort of collaborative process.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of convergent, divergent methodology that we like to use that kind of helps us filter through some stuff. I was explaining it to somebody at the Aggie Forum that it's almost like filling up your lungs with air. Like you have to expand before you can contract, and you have to take everything in. You have to breathe the full breath in before you can really expel out something that's really good and meaningful.
Tell that to my daughter. She likes to just not breathe for 20 seconds at a time.
It's got to be so frightening.
It is.
So frightening.
Yeah. Every time I'm like,
breathe.
I'm counting it down.
Just
and then if she doesn't do anything, I'm going to go
Poke
shake her foot a little bit.
Yeah. The first time that happened, I'm sure that was...
Yes. The first time it happened was the first night she was home from the hospital, and she was like freaking out for other reasons as well. So I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
Anyway, you were saying.
Hashtag first time parents.
Right. Yes.
Hashtag first time parents. I would say just kind of allowing like that sort of, everybody to contribute a safe place or an environment to really just throw out any ideas. And also, it's just a place where we all trust each other, where if we're, challenging an idea maybe, or and challenging in a way like that, we're not saying it's a bad idea, but we're just trying to push it and say, why this idea, what's there, like dig a little deeper. That it's all coming from a place of good, and then it ultimately want to get to a place where it's a great idea that is maybe going to have some impact on whether that's a student, a community, A&M, something.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it just goes back to mindsets and trust and comfortability and being able to just really feel the freedom to let's just...
If I'm looking at these and thinking about our office or what we like to work with, I really think kind of those last 3 are really important.
I know. I was looking at those two. And I was like, a lot of those actually sound like our office.
So I think empathy and especially in careers these days, you got to be able to get the job done, but you are working with people. And when you're working with people, you really need to have the ability to understand where they're coming from. Because if you don't, you're just not going to be able to work well with anybody. And you've got to be considerate. And when you're playing, so when there's this play aspect to your job, I think you have to know people and you have to understand them to know what their boundaries are and know how far you can push them. So I keep drawing to that one. I think that one is just really important. I think it impacts the ability for you to do all the other ones. But play and meaning, I think, are equally important because we like to play. We like to do things differently, but we always have to keep meaning in the back of our mind. Why are we doing this? What is the purpose? Right. We can get completely off topic. And Andy and I like to get completely off topic about, both Andy and I are kind of biohackers. And so we can talk all day about whatever thing we're trying to hack at the moment.
Yes.
Which is great, but, we also have a job to do. And so we have to keep meaning in the forefront of what we're doing. Otherwise, it can be fun and it can be a great office bonding activity. But if it's not serving a purpose, but it doesn't have meaning or value to what your mission is, then you can get a little out of hand.
Off the rails and down a rabbit hole. I completely agree. I think empathy is also another great word for perspective. Like you were saying, that if you are empathetic and you can see something from somebody else's perspective or from their shoes and really take into account where they are. There's another thing at the iSchool that we like to meet people where they are. And so I think having empathy for where they are and whether it's the project life cycle or where they are in their career, or if they're a student, and just meeting them where they are and then helping them get to where they need to be. I think you can only do that through empathy and seeing it from somebody else's perspective, and then also bringing in other perspectives from all over campus. And so I think that definitely is something important to our office, is empathy and perspective, and really trying to meet that person where they are. But absolutely, Beth is 100% right, is that we do like to play. We like to do things differently. We love to have kind of these tangent side conversations, which, we have to also be mindful that we balance that out with, like, does this have meaning? Does this have a purpose? And maybe that turns into a passion project for us, but maybe it's not a good fit for the school.
Some of these crazy conversations happen just because we are involved with all the research that's going on this campus. And sometimes we find out there are things being done here that are like so cool. Like the vet school does amazing things for, like, in terms of creating educational tools for their faculty and for, like, other vet schools. And so, I ended up spending like 3 hours over at the School of Pharmacy last month learning about how to create, like, syringes that go into your IVs and how you have to make those sterile. And
it's fascinating, actually.
And then I spent the next hour talking to Andy about this. And, but
and then there, like, half your day, there it is. Yeah.
We just get to do really cool things.
We really do. We get to talk to a lot of really cool, fun people.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Talking to cool, fun people.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yes.
It's right. Ben Wiggins is cool.
And fun.
Let's not.
He's a people.
Let's not. He is people.
So.
He is people. Tell us about the new studio you're building.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, the studio. I'm super excited about it. It's, talking about the emotional component of the School of Innovation that, like, really was, like, that defining moment for me, that really was like, okay, this is why we're doing this. Like, so the studio and just working with my students in general is that's that moment for me. Any day that I get to work with my students, which is 5 days a week, I manage 11 student workers, and just working with them is amazing. So it's just working with them on something that they're passionate about, but that also gets to be a piece of the iSchool. They get to own something here at the iSchool, whether that's, when we first started, one of my very first student workers created the icon that we use now, which is our Geo lightning bulb, and you'll see it everywhere. And that is, as far as I'm concerned, has plans to be a part of the School of Innovation forever. And so that's something that she can always go back to and say, I drew that, I created that, and that's part of the School of Innovation. And so the studio is, for me, that pure moment for the School of Innovation, where it was an idea that came from a student, and it was born out of just this idea of a passion that somebody was working on, and thought that other students would want to use this and want to have a resource for this as well. And, when we started taking a look at it, there really wasn't another place on campus that was kind of like the iStudio. We have other great resources like the One Button Studio, and there's lots of great resources over at the Viz and, other studios on campus. But what we found that there's a lot of times where it's not open access for all students to use it, or you have to be a part of a class, or it has to be for a project. And we really want, at the School of Innovation, if there's any kind of resource or platform that we create, we strongly believe that it is open access for everybody. The School of Innovation was created specifically not under any other college, school, or unit, because we want it to be a standalone where anybody could come to play. And so the studio is a place where any student, despite their major class year, could come and work on a project that they're passionate about, and it doesn't have to be for a class. And the reason why I love it is just because it did come from students. Students have been working on it for over a year now, and we're getting close to actually opening it up. And it's just really exciting to be able to see this resource available for students to just come and do what they're passionate about, and have a place to play and explore. And hey, if it doesn't work out, then that's okay. Like, you didn't invest thousands of dollars in building your own studio. Like, we did that for you, and you can just try it out. Just get out of your comfort zone. I've had so many students come up to me and say, I've always wanted to try a podcast, or I, wanted to do, YouTube videos or whatever, but I'm nervous, or I'm scared, or I don't know how to use the equipment, or, and now they're just like, they'll come and stop by the studio, and they're like, oh, okay, I might want to try this. I'm like, yeah, book an hour and just play, have fun, like, just try it. And they're getting out of their comfort zones, and they're trying things that they never thought that they would.
Get reps.
Yeah. And it's just, it's really exciting.
And so the students who created this, they just they wrote a proposal, or
they all went out and they did that, and they said, okay, now you need to pitch it to Dean Morris and the rest of the team, and they did that. And then so it's just been this long process of them working together and really going through the whole experience of building something, especially for a state institution, which has its own challenges. But, when you get out into the world, you might run into investment issues, and so I think it's given them an experience on how this works, how you can actually do this and how you can build this. And, it
aligns with our educational
component for the students as well. So they get to work on something that they're passionate about, but they also get an educational component to it as well that, isn't a letter grade on their transcript. And so it's just been a really great journey to see it kind of go through. And as things usually happen in the real world too, some people of the team have left and come and gone, and some are still sticking around, some have graduated. And that is a challenge when you're working with students, but they're all still stop by and will check it out and are invested in its success. And it's just been really cool to see. Yeah.
We'll skip through rapid fire to the last rapid fire question. We normally end each session with Good Bull, an opportunity to recognize someone else for something good or great they have done. Do you have anyone you would like to send some Good Bull?
Gosh, who do I not want to send Good Bull to? Because that list is shorter. I want to give a shout out to Charlie Lima over there at BoomFit College Station CrossFit. He's been a big mentor of mine, not just, learning a little bit from him about how he runs his business, and how he mentors his staff, but also spiritually. He's been a great spiritual mentor to me. He's a disciple of Christ and just a really good friend. So Good Bull to Charlie.
Good Bull to Charlie.
I have to give Good Bull actually to my team. I want to give a shout out to my team because I've been working on the Aggie Forum for the last couple of months and have had little time for anything else, have questioned my sanity at some points. But it's really my team that has really helped me get through the last couple of months. It hasn't been easy. It's been well worth it. But, my student workers have been amazing and pitching in and doing anything that I ask of them, even if it's not associated with the studio or if it's not associated with their actual job that they're doing right now, but they've been willing to pitch in and help me. And then, everybody on my team over at the iSchool has really been there to, anything that I need, hey, can you print this for me? Can you go pick this up from the sign shop? Can you do this? And so, I really owe them a lot. And, we could not have done the Aggie Forum without them. And so I really appreciate all their time and their help with that.
I want to send some Good Bull to Emily Finbo because that's how we got connected.
Yes.
I mean, obviously we know each other from back in the day, but and also Good Bull to Connor Pogue, the entrepreneur in residence over at Startup Aggieland. He's been a big help to us. So thank you both for your time. Thanks for coming by to chat with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Good.
And maybe y'all can do a live on location at the studio whenever we get up and running, or
just let me know when.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be in the next couple of weeks is the dream. So we'll see.
Let's do it.
All right.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to stay up to date on our latest videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. If you're in a rush or on the road, you can still join us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. If you want to learn more about us or our guests, please visit our website at mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Also, please check out Mays Business School's academic programs. They're the sponsors of our show, and you can find them in the description. Thanks, and gig 'em.